Hey everybody, thank you for watching. Ivan Velasquez here. First off, I'd like to just extend my thanks and appreciation for all of my subscribers and my viewers. And for those who haven't subscribed, if you view or if you're whatever the case, thank you for coming to this video. Now, this video is, we're going to be kind of diving into my organization who I'm certified with. I'm a certified exercise physiologist with the American College of Sports Medicine, and they recently they had a conference, and one of the presentations, and in fact I may have a series of these, but I'm not going to put the whole presentation because most of them are about an hour long, but I'm going to touch on key elements within the presentation that are relevant to my channel and support a lot of my views and a lot of my opinions on these topics in health and fitness. So let this video serve as validation and peace of mind, knowing that you subscribe to my channel, you subscribe to someone who's very, very hardcore and very evidence-based and very logical. So I'm looking out for safety, and I'm looking out for practical, feasible, and sensible, prudent recommendations that I make in my videos. Now, I will explore novel subjects, of course, but I never draw definitive conclusions on them. And even if I do make certain positions, I'm always willing to change my position if something comes out later that disproves or changes that initial position. So with that being said, enjoy this video. And so this is a video. This is the organization I'm certified with, and it's a pretty legit, prestigious, research-oriented organization. They even have their own journal, the Medicine and Science and Sports Exercise Journal, which I've actually published in. So again, feel free to leave comments below and enjoy the video, and it'll serve as confirmation. A lot of these points that this professor speaks about are I've touched on in some way. So it makes me feel good knowing that I'm following the evidence and I'm staying current on what's out there and what we know to be effective and sensible. So thank you for watching and enjoy.
All right, it is my extreme pleasure to be able to introduce today's keynote presenter. Dr. John Jakicic is a professor and the chair of the Department of Health and Physical Activity at the University of Pittsburgh. He's also the director of the NIH-funded Obesity and Nutrition Research Center and the Physical Activity and Weight Management Research Center, also at the University of Pittsburgh. He is a leading scholar in the area of physical activity and weight control, and he's recognized at a national and international level. Personally, John has been a mentor and a friend for me and has had a significant impact in shaping my career. And so I'm really excited about hearing his latest insights in the area of lifestyle, physical activity, and obesity. And I think all of us will be able to walk out of this room today with things that we can put into practice tomorrow morning. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. John Jakicic.
Thank you, Kara.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here today. Thanks for the great introduction. It's my pleasure. It's been a few years since I've been to the Health and Fitness Summit, and it's good to be back. So I think I have a challenge ahead of me. First, I walk up on the stage and music's playing, and our keynote speaker last night made you dance. I will not make you dance today. Many of you know that will not be going over very well. The other thing that comes up a lot was, well, what do we know about other forms of activity? And I'm going to have a few more comments about this before my talk is over. But the one thing I know that everybody in the room is passionate about is resistance training. And the one thing about resistance training is I actually think we're selling resistance training for obesity management in the wrong way. And that's because resistance training actually doesn't result in much weight loss. And it takes a heck of a lot of resistance training in somebody who has a BMI of 40 to actually increase their lean mass enough that it says, well, it's a gain of mass as opposed to a loss of fat. The other challenge is to get people to do this at a high enough level. Most people are going to have to come to the gym, get a trainer. I mean, it takes a lot. And most of these people are afraid to come to the gym. They don't have the resources to do that. So I think we have to be careful, but I do think resistance training is critically important for the person who's struggling with their weight, not because it's going to help them with weight loss, but it's because it's going to give them the strength to actually get out of the chair and move that body mass around. It actually gives them the strength to be functional. So we should really be thinking about resistance training for people who are struggling with their weight from a functional perspective, not a weight loss perspective. Over time, it'll come, but we need to focus on where the real benefit is. Okay? And when we looked at these different things, the other thing about most resistance training programs, at least in the literature, most of them are 6 months or less in duration, and most of them only require people to come to resistance training 2 to 3 days a week. You just don't get enough energy expenditure doing that. So we need to think about how can we, it's not that resistance training isn't good for us, it's great for us, but saying just rely on resistance training is probably not going to be the solution either. It's a comprehensive approach to physical activity that we need to think about. As we think about these things, the one thing that we have to realize is not everybody responds the same way. Everybody's going to respond differently to our interventions, and we have to be understanding of that and try to figure out why is that. These are data from the Midwest exercise trial that we published 10 years ago now. And in this particular case, these are data from individuals who came and actually were supervised for 16 months, 4 to 5 times a week, 45 minutes a day, at a moderate to vigorous intensity on a treadmill. So we know they did it, right? We know they did it. These are the individuals. These are only the women. Look at the variability that you see in their response to that. Some people gained weight with that exercise regimen. Some people lost. And even people who lost, some lost a little, some lost a lot. Some gained a little, some gained a lot. So we can look at the average person and say, well, you should lose. The question is why are they not losing? And the first thing that we jump to is what? Well, they're not doing what I told them to do. They're not being adherent to the physical activity program, right? But we know they were because we saw them 4 to 5 times a week. These people were adherent. 90% adherent to the exercise program. So it can't be that. It has to be some other things. And I think we have to understand that variability. Interesting data. In this particular case, these individuals ate more on the day that they rested compared to exercise. On the exercise day, they ate less. These folks over here ate more on the exercise day. Not less, they ate more on the exercise day. So if you think about that, if that was to be chronic over time, these people would actually lose weight with exercise. These people would actually gain weight with exercise, if everything else was held constant. "16 months, Midwest exercise trial, exercise. Some people gain, some people lose. Showed you this slide. Look at the pattern of that graph. Acute bout of exercise. Look at the pattern of that graph. I'm not saying it's cause and effect, but I'm saying it's deeper than saying all you need to do is exercise. For some people, we never ask them, when you're done exercising, how do you feel? Do you feel hungry or not? What do you eat when you're done exercising? How soon after your exercise do you eat? We don't pay any attention to that. But here's a gel. You should go eat this because it's going to replenish you. But some people, you know, I talk to colleagues, there's probably people sitting next to you. When they're done with their exercise bout in the morning, they don't want to even look at food. Other people are saying, where can I get the bagel? Where can I get the orange? Where can I get the yogurt? They're famished by the time they're done with an hour of exercise. People have that response, and it may be driving some of the responses we see. So it's complex, folks. It's not just that exercise burns energy and that's going to impact weight. Exercise burns energy and it impacts weight, but exercise also triggers things that cause hunger, cause satiety, may influence energy intake, may influence lack of energy intake. All these things need to be thought about. And we're not taking much time to think about those in a complex way. So when you see two people doing exactly the same thing and one person's losing and one person's not, don't just assume it's because they're not being compliant. It's very possible that there's a physiological drive that's actually contributing to this in some way, and we need to understand that. So getting up and walking from here to there and back and doing that a bunch of times today didn't seem to actually matter when it came to the long-term weight loss maintenance. It was the total amount of moderate to vigorous and the amount of moderate to vigorous in 10-minute bouts that mattered. So maybe it isn't that a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. Maybe there's something about how we put those calories together that matters. And we need to think about that. But also, for the first time in the literature, we found that the people who lost the most weight also started to engage in more light intensity physical activity. They didn't just come and do their exercise. At other times of the day, they started moving around more. And so to tell people all you need to do is be physically active in an exercise way is actually compromising their effectiveness. We need to say, get your activity, and then all the rest of the time today, move around as much as you possibly can. That's what makes the difference for people. It's not just this structured period of exercise. And we're finding that out more and more, that there's these other components we need to pay attention to. What about 10,000 steps? We've heard this for a long time, haven't we? Get 10,000 steps a day. That's the target. We have a paper that's being developed right now, and these are hot off the press data, so you're the first to see these data. We actually took those same people that did that 18-month program and went in and said, we want to look at the number of steps you take per day and whether or not those steps are in a light intensity or a moderate to vigorous intensity. How many steps is predictive of long-term weight loss success? So what we did here, and I'm just showing you this in a simplistic way. These are the data for total steps per day that a person took. And the white is the maintained group. That's the one that lost the most. And if you look at the group that lost the least, which is blue, and the one that lost the most, which is white, there's a significant difference in the number of steps that they take. One is over 10,000 steps a day. One is about 8,000 steps a day. So the people that lost over 10% of their weight and maintained it, clearly were doing more than 10,000 steps a day. So what we should do is tell people, get more than 10,000 steps a day. No, that's not what we should tell them. We've also looked at non-moderate to vigorous steps. I kind of stroll to the back of the room, I kind of stroll to the door, I stroll out into the lobby. There was no difference in the number of steps people took when it came to that either. The people that lost the most weight and the least weight did about the same amount of light activity. More vigorous 1-minute bouts, I really have got to go to the bathroom, so I got to hurry, right? That didn't matter either. What mattered was taking those steps in 10-minute bouts or more at a moderate to vigorous pace. And we found that 37% of the steps, of the 10,000 steps that a person needs to take, 37% of those need to be in bouts of 10 minutes or more at a moderate to vigorous intensity, and that's what was predictive of long-term weight loss. So when you start to think about, yes, get a target. Here's a target. A target should be, first let's get you to 10,000 steps. Once we get you there, let's start now thinking about the intensity of those steps and how we start bouting those steps together. That's what we need to be promoting for people to actually get them to improve their long-term weight loss success. And so we think that this actually is a take-home message to people. Where do you start? Let's go to 10,000, then let's start to work on intensity, and then let's start to work on bouting the steps together. And that's a really important finding, I think, and a public health message that we can share. HbA1c levels from our large look-ahead trial, where we had 5,000 diabetics. And what we found was that fitness was extremely predictive. Improving cardiorespiratory fitness was extremely predictive of improving HbA1c levels over 4 years in that trial. So when we have diabetics, we need to do activity that's going to improve their fitness. Absolutely, we need to get people to do that. And that relationship holds even after we control for weight loss, pharmacotherapy, age, gender, you can start naming all the variables. It's an independent predictor of who's going to improve their HbA1c and glucose control. Fitness is that predictor. We can't ignore it when we're trying to treat these chronic diseases. So what's this? We have another trial that's underway, and I'll just show you some baseline data. This is a cardiac MRI image. This is the heart, aorta. We're doing this in about 383 people in a trial that's ending, be done around July. This is some imaging where we're actually taking a look at the tissues in the heart and looking at collagen buildup and asking, does weight loss and exercise improve the actual heart structure and function in people who are overweight and obese? Here are some, the reason this is important is that body mass index, as it goes up, the left ventricular size goes up as well. And the size of the left ventricle is predictive of poor cardiovascular outcomes, especially as one ages. So you really don't want a large ventricle under certain circumstances, right? Left ventricular hypertrophy, we want to be careful of that. Well, all the studies, these are data from our lab in Pittsburgh, but all the big studies, MESA trial, all the big trials have shown that left ventricular mass is predictive. The bigger the size of the left ventricle, the bigger the problem you have with cardiovascular outcomes. None of those studies have actually factored in whether or not a person is getting that left ventricle size from obesity or getting that left ventricular size from exercise and physical activity. So we're looking at that. And what we have found is these are some data from this age group right here, overweight, obese, and so on. This is the first 100 people that we've been able to get all the scans from. And sure enough, we see the same relationship, that when we look at the left ventricular size and we look at body mass index or waist circumference, there's a significant correlation. The bigger you are, the bigger the left ventricle, which means probably the poorer prognostic value you're going to have, the worse off you're going to be at some point. But guess what? Fitness is also correlated. And fitness is correlated with a lot of things that come off of that. And systolic volume and diastolic volume, LV mass. You need that in order to be fit, right? And this is a good response. This is a bad response. And when we start to look at these data, and I don't want to make this complicated, but when we actually go in and start to take a look at our data and we say, if you look at the left ventricular size and you look at fitness in the model, fitness starts to overwhelm the body mass index and the waist circumference. That if you're getting a left ventricular size from fitness and physical activity, it doesn't matter if you're overweight or obese, because you're getting it from a good perspective. If you have a high LV mass and you're not physically fit, that's bad. And so we need to think about, in some cases, activity. The bottom line is this: when you lose weight, and we've done a small study that's looked at this already, the heart itself does not change. When you lose weight with exercise, the structure and function of the heart changes all in a positive way. So if you want to maximize the cardiovascular benefits of weight loss, exercise needs to be a part of that. If you just get people to lose weight with diet, you're not getting that. You're minimizing the effect. It's clear. So I'll end with a couple of kind of current things that we're doing. This is part of our problem, folks. Every piece of gym equipment has this sign on it someplace, right? Don't talk to your personal trainer unless you talk to your doctor first, right? We got to be careful of that. Wrong message, right? We've known this for some time. It's the wrong message. Talk to your doctor if you decide not to get on the treadmill, not if you decide to get on the treadmill, right? And more importantly, talk to your doctor if you decide to use this instead of the treadmill. Correct? Right? And that's, you heard that last night, this idea of sitting, sedentary behavior is kind of the next horizon for us.